thank you for checking out the Netflix and Kill podcast. This recording was with Thomas Tucker of Death Culture. He has an Instagram page that I highly recommend you follow. I'm going to have that on the description, his handle for that, his Letterboxd account, his WordPress site, and then in the coming months, hopefully he'll have a YouTube video series that he'll be doing. So the person's well knowledged. He is a fan of the genre. He's an awesome person to talk to. Hopefully, if you do podcasts or run some type of horror sites and are looking for contributors or looking for guests, definitely check out Death Culture and hit him up. He's someone that I'm looking forward to listen and to hear or to watch anything genre related. So thank you, Death Culture, and thank you, listeners, for checking this recording out. How do you define horror? What criteria must be met for you to consider a film horror?
For me, I wouldn't say there's any exact criteria, because I think there's so much criteria that can be met to justify what you might consider horror. Everything from like the recent movie Good Time, that whole situation of that guy, and was absolutely horrific, but I don't think anyone would call it a horror movie. But if I was stuck in that situation, I'd be scared shitless. I think it really kind of just boils down to, in my opinion, like a form of catharsis. If there's like something there that can terrify you, but you can overcome it, I think that's why a lot of people enjoy horror, whether it be something psychological, like the Babadook, or, a mass killer chasing you down in the woods. I think something that elicits a heart rate, but at the same time, I like the catharsis in horror. It'll let you face your fears, whether it be something small or something blown way out of proportion.
Yeah, like a roller coaster, right?
Yeah, there's a sense of safety to it, that you're things are going to get wild, but hopefully at the end of it, you're not dead.
Yeah. All right, that's awesome. Well, I mean, this was more. I should have worded it better. But for you personally, like how do you, when you're looking through a catalog of films, whatnot, like, oh yeah, this, or after watching a film, it's like, yeah, this for sure is a horror. Is it pretty much what you just stated about that catharsis, like having to feel, or is it more? I wasn't really looking for just kind of a broad thing, just more your personal. How you personally?
I don't know. I can be kind of a dark, sad sack. So as much as I like the whole catharsis thing, I still like having really shitty endings. I like when things go bad for people. The more often it goes bad for people, the more I'm likely to be like, that's a horror movie. Just because the horror doesn't have, real life horror doesn't always have an upside. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it kind of depends on what type of horror I'm looking at. Whether it's something that's like like maybe it's like a more culty film. I really like the idea of like the psychology behind it, and I think if you can really creep somebody out on a psychological level, that's like the horror that I really like.
For sure. All right, awesome, cool. And you sort of answered this, but why do you watch horror films? Is it the catharsis, like you mentioned? Is it to feel sympathy for the other? To be more empathetic, nostalgia, the special effects?
When I first got into watching, it was the special effects, like all the major practical effects of like the 70s and 80s are like what I fell in love with. I love watching people's heads split open into 48 different pieces. But as I got older, I really started just getting into like the writing, like the message that's conveyed through horror. I really like the concepts of going down through a more, I guess, artistic way. Like a lot of people can make a straightforward drama, but I like if you can talk about human emotions and human situations through a lens of horror. And I think that's what I really like now, but I still have a soft spot for watching tentacles burst out of things.
That's awesome. All right, cool. What are your preferred horror subgenres and why?
My preferred ones, I really like the classic cabin in the woods type movies. I like people going out into secluded areas and messing with stuff that they shouldn't have, and then having whether it be an entity or a monster or something chasing them down. Evil Dead, like that type of stuff. Classic Friday the 13th at a shitty summer camps, The Burning. But now I think the thing that I've been on the biggest kick is like cult films or dark art films, like paganism and stuff like that. Like Kill List is one of my favorites. I really like the Dark Song from last year, talking about like the occult and stuff. That's really cool. And then I think like a melding of the things I really like was The Void. I know not everybody was super big on it, but it kind of had that mix between like cult and the special effects, and then it kind of had a little bit of like a Fulci feel, or like a mixture like a Hellraiser, like a weird landscape that's like on the other side that you can't quite understand. And so mixing all three of those things together was really awesome. I kind of felt the same way a little bit about that Turkish movie Baskin. Kind of had that weird like kind of Hellraiser, kind of Fulci feel. Something on the other side reaching out to you.
Yeah. Awesome. So, for why? I mean, let's go back to that cabin in the woods, that secluded, what you mentioned, sort of that isolated feeling. Is there any type of like psychological reason, like in terms of, have you had bad experiences going camping or anything like that, or are you just were you fascinated by the whole going out into like a forest, or like you mentioned, a secluded area, and having to deal with some type of unstoppable force like Jason Voorhees?
No, I'm just kind of like throughout my life I've lived in a lot of rural areas. I've only really ever lived in a major city at one point in my life, but the rest of the time I've kind of been out in the woods or out in the sticks a little bit. So like there's an eeriness that comes with the quiet of being out in the middle of the woods or further off on dirt roads and stuff that you don't quite get in the city. When I lived in the city, if I heard noises, I knew everything was okay. But when you go out into the woods and you don't hear anything, every little noise that you hear is not okay. If like how they felt in the Blair Witch, just laying in that tent and all I heard was twigs snapping, and that was enough to set them off. I did have a moment when I was younger. I lived in New Mexico. We're kind of out in the bit of the desert, and one night, me and my brother were home by ourselves, and our parents were out on a date, and somebody tried to break into the house. So me and my brother sitting in the living room, and all of a sudden the door handle starts shaking, and the door starts shaking on the door handle shaking, and the door frame is rattling like somebody's trying to force their way in. Eventually, I think they saw us through the window coming up to the door, and they kind of, ran off. But when you're young, being kind of out in the middle of nowhere and having someone try to come into your house while your family's not there except for you and your younger brother, you get a little scared. So yeah, that's kind of why I think that stuff resonates with me a little bit.
Is it much easier to be sympathetic or empathetic towards characters that are secluded compared to other kind of situations, since you have that amount of experience living more out in the sticks? Or
Yes and no, because I'm the realist that I am. I see the glass as half empty and half full at the same time. When I watch some of these movies, I'm like, these idiots, how did they get themselves in this situation in the first place, and they deserve it. But then there's always the one where it's all like, oh, this person didn't deserve it, so I feel kind of bad. So I'm sitting there watching it going, yeah, it's okay if he goes, it's okay if she goes. I'd be kind of bummed if she died. So I don't know, I kind of split down the middle, really, depending on how it plays out. I guess on how stupid they decide to act in the movie.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Oh, and I'm assuming too, like you mentioned earlier on, it was more of the practical effects. So that another reason why you were more into that cabin in the woods type of thing early on, because of the practical effects. How do I say? Was the emphasis was more on like the kills and things like that, seeing, like you mentioned, a head explode or something like that?
Yeah, I think what I really like about him is there's the DIY aesthetic to it. There's a lot of, you could tell people were trying out crazy things, and these are the movies they were going to try them out on. You listen to stories about how they shot scenes from Evil Dead where somebody's on a raft being pushed through swamp water while the camera's balancing on the end of a board, and it gets you these crazy insane shots. But then you see how they did it, and it was literally people dicking around with a raft. So I just like the experimentation you see in a lot of that stuff. Just the, like I said, the DIY nature of all these guys are kind of just, had no money, but they were going to try something crazy, and by God, they'll figure out how to do it regardless of the steps that it took, whether it caused them bodily harm or not.
Awesome. And now for like you mentioned you're a bit more fascinated with the cult or the dark arts. So is there any reason for that? Have you had any recent experiences with anything like that, or is there any type of fascination, or what's the reasoning behind that fascination?
I like it because it's kind of grounded in a more real world thing that can happen. I like when they mix in like the supernatural, the supernatural stuff with the culty things. I really really like, but the cult in general is just interesting to me on like, even like on a true crime and psychological level. Like, what drove people that they were willing to give up everything to follow a madman to do something? Things like, like Jonestown, and how people feel about like Scientology and stuff. Like, these people are willing to just throw their whole lives away to follow some madman into the abyss. Like Heaven's Gate and all that stuff. It really just blows my mind that people are out there not only convincing people to do this stuff, but that there's a whole group of people willing to let them be convinced by that. I think it resonates a little bit with me because where I used to live in Georgia, there is a church that's kind of known for having some less than savory practices when it comes to trying to recruit church members. You could drive by this church in 2:00 in the morning. I know, because being in high school, you do dumb shit out until all hours of the night, and you would drive by this church, and there would be people there. Like, there would be at least 10, 15 cars, like, out in the parking lot, all the lights on. You could see people moving in there. Come to find out that they would, kind of gang stalk people. If you were a member of that church and all of a sudden you had a problem with that church and left, they would have people, like, literally follow people around and try to intimidate them at, like, stores and stuff when they're out running their errands. And that shit was crazy to me. And I think that still resonates with me when I watch a lot of these movies, is that I kind of lived close to something like that. I mean, it wasn't quite the level of a suicide cult or anything, but very, weird practices going on, and a bunch of people willing to go along with it has always just been unsettling to me.
What criteria must be met for you to give a horror film 5 stars out of 5, or like a perfect 5? Because I looked at your letterbox, and I think you just have like Alien or in terms of horror, I think it was just like Alien, and there's very few films that you gave a 5. So
I guess when a lot of those things I was reviewing when I didn't understand how Letterboxd work, the first time you log on and it starts asking you like to review and rate and things, but like it's kind of just feeding it to you like almost like a simultaneous images just keep sliding by you until you exit out of it. So my dumbass is sitting there for who knows how long, just like, I don't know, the last time I watched it I felt like this, but who knows, maybe it's changed. I think to reach a 5-star, you have to.
For you.
For me,
yeah,
it's hard because I like so many different things. Like, I feel like if it's a style that I like, if you can execute that style in a way that I haven't seen, or you take what's known and flip it on its head and show me it from a completely different angle, I think is what will make me rate something higher. Like, prior to Alien, there really was nothing like Alien. Like, we had sci-fi films, and we've had, horror films, but they hadn't quite been melded exactly in the way that Alien did it, let alone with just like the production value. Everything about that film is beautiful to me. Like, the way the Nostromo looks is just some of the best set design, and I always mess up his name, H.R. Giger, however you pronounce it. His designs for the xenomorph is just, it's got this weird humanity to it, but it's also got, a lot of sexual like design built into it, a lot of phallic images and yonic images, and it's everything about it is just done so well, and it just hadn't been done like that before. And I think that's why that's one of the ones that just really sticks out to me. It's just how well all these crazy concepts melded into one. Same way I feel about like The Thing, and it's just something about it. It's just all these pieces just come together in the perfect way, which is weird looking back at like how people reviewed The Thing. They're like, yeah, this movie's a piece of shit. And then you look at it now and you're like, well, those people are dumb. Those people are stupid. But I also like a movie that just makes me feel good. Like, and even if it makes me feel good to feel bad, like, I don't know, not to go like super spoilery, but I loved Krampus. That's one of my favorites from the last few years because it kind of felt like an Evil Dead 2 movie set during Christmas time, and the ending is just so bleak that it becomes comical, and you can't help but walk out with a big dumb grin on your face like watching it.
What are your thoughts on physical media, and are there preferred formats for use? Do you prefer the Blu-ray over a DVD? Do you prefer VHS over like Laserdisc?
When it comes to physical media, because I had this discussion recently about the concept of digital formats versus physical formats. There's something just inherent about being able to own the physical item, because at the end of the day, if say your whole movie library is on like iTunes or something, you don't really own the rights to that movie. You own the ability to watch that movie until someone decides you don't anymore, and then they can just take the rights away from you. And next thing you know, you open up your digital library and half of it's gone because somebody didn't pay for the rights extension or something. But when it comes to the physical media, if I really want to watch something, there's nobody anywhere that's going to be able to come into my house and stop me from grabbing, damn It Comes at Night off of my movie shelf. Like, there's nothing that's going to stop me, sans my Blu-ray player being broken. And that's what I really liked about that, is that even if rights get mixed up, hey, I've already got the physical copy. You can't take it away from me unless I have like a house fire or some shit.
Yeah.
When it comes to my preferred, I really like Blu-ray and I really like VHS. I gotta go with Blu-ray now because VCRs are getting harder and harder to come by, and slowly but steadily as they break, it's one less VCR in the world. So right now we're at the height where you could probably find a Blu-ray $10-15 on sale any given day. So it's nice picture quality, and it's great to see some of these films that didn't get great transfer treatments onto DVD. You have people like Arrow and Severin Films and Synapse going back and taking these films that were never given the justice of an actual, nice transfer, and you can see all these things that you never saw before, even if sometimes it makes things look a bit worse because now you can see the fishing lure that's stringing something up. It's still cool to be able to get like an actual decent picture. But VHS is just, it was the first format that I had growing up. I was one of those kids that would go into the Blockbuster or Hollywood Video or mom and pop rental shop, and I could just pick up a VHS case with the coolest, sickest art on it, and then whenever I popped it into a VCR, it was the worst piece of trash you'd ever watched and looked nothing like the cover. So I think my nostalgia lies more in the going to rent movies and just digging through awesome covers when I was younger. But yeah, I think out of the two, I'm gonna have to go with VHS, or not VHS, but Blu-ray though, just because I can still watch them easily and not have to worry about VCR breaking all the time.
Awesome. All right. What events and or people helped cultivate your interest in horror? Was there? Yeah.
Definitely my parents. My mom more so than my dad. She grew up very into punk music and horror movies and stuff, so I just kind of naturally got into that stuff because, without going into too much, my father being in the military, he got sent overseas a lot, so there's a lot of times where it was just me and my mom and my brother, and a lot of times we'd go out and order a pizza and then, like I said, go dig around at Blockbuster just looking for crazy looking movies on VHS. Events, really, I have always really liked Halloween, and my birthday is in April, which is the exact opposite of Halloween. So now I always try to convince my parents to have like Goosebumps birthday parties and stuff like that. Like, I wanted to make things spooky again, since I had to wait until October, another 6 months from now, to enjoy Halloween. Um, I used to live in Savannah, which a lot of people consider, the most haunted city in America, depending on if you believe in ghosts or not. But it's always fun to, hear the history and how a lot of people interpret, negative history into these strange events. And even if, ghosts don't exist or anything, it's fun to have, ghost stories. It's fun to have folklore. It's fun to have that stuff exist. The world, it's pretty boring. I mean, there's a lot of awesome things out there, but like, just think of how crazy it would be to one day go out in the woods and actually stumble across a Bigfoot. Like, you would lose your fucking mind. It would be awesome. You'd be like, I'm not gonna hate on this. This rules. So I like to think that stuff exists, even if I don't actually believe that it exists, because it makes the world more fun. And I think horror movies are that, little window into pretending that stuff is real and there for you.
Yeah, that bit of a escapism.
Yeah, basically, like most entertainment. Yeah, it just boils down to fun escapism.
All right. Well, there was a Halloween question I wanted to ask you, but to get into the folklore, like ghosts, have you ever personally experienced like anything that would be deemed supernatural or anything odd? Like, have you ever messed with like Ouija boards, or have you heard stories that seemed pretty frightening? Like,
No, I've got a really long-winded one, but it's the only real experience that I've ever had. But it took place over the course of a couple months. I have dicked around with Ouija boards because, like I said, it's fun to pretend that stuff exists, even if it doesn't. I know a lot of people that are terrified by the concept of bringing a Ouija board in the house, like my wife, when I didn't tell her that I brought one in the house, and she kind of yelled at me for a few minutes, but it's okay now. um, but no, when I was younger, going back to when I lived in New Mexico, like I said, this house, it was in a town, but it was like on the outskirts of town. But I used to live near one of the oldest like trying to think of the exact word it is. Some of the oldest human remains in like North American history were found in this area that I lived in, and so there was always like excavations going on, and very poltergeisty, like your house might be built on Native American burial grounds, but in this case it's like for real, like they would dig up land all around me all the time. So when we first moved into the house, before we'd even moved actual things in, the very first time we stepped in the house, like I said, it's just my parents and my younger brother, but this house was a 4-bedroom house, and me and my brother were rushing upstairs because it was a 2-story thing to pick out a room. When we came up the stairs, we went around the corner, and I looked, all the doors were closed, but I looked down and I could see shadows moving under the door. And I was like, okay, the sun's not coming from that side of the house, so the shadows shouldn't be casted inside of the room. If anything, they should be on the wall behind me. And so I see these things, it looks like feet moving around, and I'm like, okay, ha ha ha, and I open up the door, and there's nothing there. Okay, maybe I'm just stupid and don't know how shadows work. Well, we flashed forward a couple of weeks. We had moved everything in, like the movers had dropped stuff off, and I'd set stuff up in my room. And one night I wake up in my bed, and then I feel like I got shoved off the bed. Now I'm still trying to debate to this day if I just happened to wake up halfway rolling out of the bed, and so the forward momentum just kept going, and I was an idiot and just rolled out of my bed sleeping. So it felt weird, but I didn't say anything about it. Probably about 6-7 months goes by, and I finally have made friends, and I'm no longer just the new kid that's in town. And I decided to invite a couple of my friends over to stay the night. And like I said, I've always been into horror movies since I was a kid, so I was like, all right, man, we're gonna go up to my room. We're gonna play Wolfenstein. The new Wolfenstein had come out. I specifically remember us playing Wolfenstein. And so we're playing this, and we were like, oh man, let's watch the movies. My buddy goes, well, hey, do you mind if I go downstairs and get some popcorn to bring up? And I was like, yeah, man, that's cool. He goes downstairs, and he comes back up, and he says, I didn't know your grandparents were here. My grandparents live thousands of miles away. What are you talking about? My grandparents lived in Georgia, and I'm out here in New Mexico. And he's like, yeah, I just saw your grandma go down the stairs. no, you didn't. Nobody's here. He's like, dude, I swear. I was like, okay, so I go and open up the door, look down the stairs, don't see anything. I think he's just dicking with me at this point. So I'm kind of a little, a little shaken up. A couple months goes by, I do it again, have more people over. This time he doesn't come. My other friends come, or two of my other friends come. He can't come this time. My buddy Kenny, he goes downstairs and he goes, dude, I didn't know your grandparents are here. And I was like, fuck you, man. I know that he told you to say it. He's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. He's like, I saw a woman go down the stairs and out into the living room. You're lying to me. Well, yeah. I never saw this woman, but I've had two people claim that they saw this woman in the house, and I've always kind of felt uneasy in this extra bedroom that we had. So I get sick one night, and I won't even lie, I fucking threw up all over my bed, and I tried to, I dragged the sheets off, and I'm like, I'm not going to sleep in this bed, so I go to sleep in the extra bedroom. I stayed up the rest of the night staring into darkness because it felt like somebody was standing over the bed the entire time. And that's the room closest to the doorsteps where everybody says that they've seen this lady go down. And that's about as close as I've ever gotten to anything like supernatural. It's just more feelings than everything. But I have had two people in my house say that they saw somebody. How much of that might have been them just pulling my leg because we're young and stupid, but like I said, there were parts of that house I just didn't feel comfortable in, and to have people tell me that those stories just made me real uncomfortable after a while. But that's really about it. I've never had anything like, I've never like recorded anything crazy or caught any voices or, I kind of a skeptic for the most part, but I can't explain feelings sometimes unless there's some science behind it that I don't understand.
Yes. So I mean, when it comes to a Ouija, you never experienced anything out of the ordinary
Nah.
out of a Ouija board? Huh?
No, maybe it might have just been my attitude toward it. Like it's like the equivalent of Halloween, the board game. It's a goofy haunted house thing to me. It's funny. It looks cool. It's got an awesome aesthetic. The history is interesting, but at the end of the day, to me, it still kind of feels like parlor tricks. It's a fun, goofy thing that makes people uncomfortable, and that's why I enjoy it. Just because people are like, "Oh no way, am I using that thing?"
Is it? So you said you have a Ouija board in your house, right?
No, because like I said earlier, my wife yelled at me, so I took it back.
Was it just like a Hasbro type of thing, or was it actually one you ordered from?
No, it was okay. The story behind this one is we have this place here that's like we call it a free cycle center. Basically, all the stuff people don't want. How people set stuff out on the side of the road. With the intention like, hey, I don't need this anymore, but if you want it, feel free to take it off the side of the road. Well, we have a building that's right next to our recycling and trash center here in the neighborhood that I live in. And people can just drop stuff off there, and if you want it, you just come pick it up, and nobody questions it. Well, I went and dropped off some old plates. I think we had just bought some new ones, and I took them to drop them off. And when I was in there in the building that you can drop all the stuff in, I see it sitting on a shelf, and me being like I said, the dark stuff is funny to me. I grab the board, and I'm like, I immediately shove it under my arm and get in my car and drive home. I set it down on the kitchen table, and I open it up to see what type of condition it is. It's got a registered trademark from I think it was 76, 78. It was late 70s. So I'm guessing it was like a Hasbro toy or anything, but it was so old that there wasn't tons of just marketing on it. It wasn't like dressed up to look, crazy or anything. It was just a plain board with a picture of the Ouija board, and it had that generic font that just said Ouija on the Ouija board on the top of it. Well, I opened it up, and what's it called? The planchette. I think that's the piece. Yeah, it was broken, and I know a lot of people are superstitious about it, and I just kind of was like laughing. I was like, "This is the start of a horror movie. This is the most generic thing. Like I find a mystery Ouija board. It's got a broken planchette. I brought it into my house. I'm dicking around with it. Nobody's here to stop me." Until later that night when my wife came in and she stopped me. She was like, I don't like that. I was like, all right. So I took it back to the free cycle center. So I like to think that somebody the next day came in and took it, and that their house is possessed by the devil.
Interesting. Yeah, that's one of the things I've heard pretty horrific things with people messing with Ouija boards, but it's sort of like you. I'm pretty like a skeptic with that. So, but it's always fascinating to hear people's stories with Ouijas, because a lot of people think it's complete horseshit, but it's like, man, I don't know.
Yeah, I think everyone has that like feeling about it, because there are tons of people who be like, dude, that thing's horse shit. But if you're like, all right, you want to do it with me, they'll be like, no, it's fine. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
See, I know that you're lying now.
Yeah, I would have to use one that was like actually like carved from like, you know, some type of tree.
Oh yeah, the most ancient oak tree that's in Salem. Like, you gotta find the spookiest fucking tree that's ever lived and carve that down, and then all the wood's been burnt in with the blood of 1,000 witches. Like, if I want to get a Ouija board, I want a Ouija-ass Ouija board. I want it to be, I want to be able to smell the sulfur coming out of it. I want to know that thing's a gateway if I get it.
Well, the thing is, like, if you experience it, it's like nothing. At least it's like better off than just like some plastic, you know, thing. So I'm like, well, at least if I don't get the experience of like feeling really fucked up, then at least it looks really nice, you know.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's aesthetically a really cool looking thing. But yeah, not one that you're gonna fold up like a damn Monopoly board. There's nothing spooky about folding a Monopoly board. So.
The Monopoly Man themed Ouija board.
That's how they should reboot both The Exorcist and Monopoly. I know that they made Battleship into a movie, and you know that was Clue is a movie. There we go. We got ourselves the Hasbro expanded universe, except Monopoly is a horror movie.
Yeah. All right. So, in terms of your preferred aesthetics when it comes to horror films, is it practical FX over CGI? Is there monochrome over color? Or what's your preferred aesthetics?
I think like most people, it's, you know, practical over CGI all day. When it comes to color choices, I just anything that suits, I guess, the either aesthetic or theme that you're going for. If you're not going for one, you should probably go for the other. When you look at something like Neon Demon, like the colors are beautiful. That's like second to Suspiria in my head. Nicholas Winding Refn, all of his movies are gorgeous to look at, even if a lot of people think they're style over substance. But man, there's something about neon and neon colors against black that's just awesome. Pinks and blues and all that stuff. That's why Suspiria is one of my favorites. It's just visually one of the greatest looking things. Things that I really like aesthetically that I really like is symmetry. Like, that's my favorite thing. Like, when I take photographs and stuff, like anything that has a nice symmetry to it. Long hallways with matching sides. That's the stuff I really like. I don't know if you saw. Have you watched any of the Channel Zero stuff, like Candle Cove or what's the other one? No End House. Have you watched any of those?
No.
It's Sci-Fi's like anthology series, but it's actually really sick. There's a lot of scenes where there's like long hallway shots, kind of similar to like how The Shining felt, where it's uncomfortably long and everything's too symmetrical that it's unsettling because everything looks so perfect. I really like that stuff. That's the type of stuff that I always look for, is nice, weird symmetry that's just too perfect to be natural. It just makes you feel uncomfortable looking at something that's too pristine, I guess.
All right. And what subgenres or tropes are you jaded by? Like the undead subgenre, jump scare tropes. Like what are you sort of tired with or jaded by? This is probably another pretty popular sentiment. I'm sick of jump scares that aren't actual jump scares. Like, I hate when somebody opens up a cabinet and for some reason there's a cat and it does that generic and jumps out, and they just have like the generic B-roll footage of a cat jumping out of something. I don't know like why people continue to do that and why the cat is always jumping from the dumbest places. Like, who put the cat in the cabinet in the first place? There's no reason for the cat to be there. The cat's inside of the cabinet, or you open up the trash can, the cat's somehow in the trash can and the lid's on top of it. So it just keeps getting in all these places and the lids keep closing. So I'm sick of that.
which is weird because I really like jump scares. Like a lot of people are like, oh no, I hate jump scares. I think a jump scare with substance is one of the best things ever, because it's like going back to how we were talking about the roller coaster. That first drop is fun. You know what's coming. You know there's a build up to it, but when it happens, you'll jolt a little bit, and then you're smiling and laughing all the way the rest of the way down it. If you can make a well-crafted jump scare that earns it, actually has a purpose, and isn't a fucking cat jumping out of a cabinet, I actually like the new Insidious. There's a lot about that movie I didn't like, but the scene with the briefcases in the vent, it goes on for so long, and you know that it's coming, but it continuously does it. She just one piece of luggage, turns around, looks forward. Another piece of luggage, turns around, looks forward. And I actually enjoyed it because it goes so far beyond like anything logical. Like that scene should have been edited down by at least 3 minutes. It's like almost a 10-minute cut of this lady opening luggage. And when the jump scare finally happens, it's been going on for so long that you forgot the jump scare was about to happen, and it's legitimately funny. Like when I was in the theater, that was like one of the things that just really got people, and I was like, yeah, that was pretty fun. And it wasn't a cat jumping out of the luggage; it was an actual, something terrifying, as opposed to, like I said, the black cat stereotype.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as for subgenres, right. I don't think any subgenre has been driven into the ground enough yet that there's no coming back to it, or that I'm burnt out on it. I know a lot of people don't like found footage movies, but hey, if you can figure out a cool way to do a found footage movie, do it. Zombies, I know it's been a real popular thing, for years and years, especially since The Walking Dead kind of jump-started it back on TV and stuff. But, still love zombies, as long as you can do it well. And, Twilight tried to ruin vampires, but hey, you can do vampires well, just keep doing it. So, and nothing I think has completely been driven in the ground for me personally yet, but I'm sure there are tons of other people who have different opinions on that.
All right, awesome. And what are your favorite, or what are some of your favorite genre-centric production companies, like A24 or Spectre Vision, or it could be like a video game or a literature type of company? What are some of your favorites?
As much as I want to drag them out into the street and shoot them execution style now, I used to love Konami because Silent Hill was my favorite thing on the planet, even though the original Team Silent has more than disbanded now, but there's something aesthetically and lore-wise and mechanic-wise I've just always loved about Silent Hill, and it bums me out that it's probably over for good, unless somebody buys the rights for Silent Hill. Because next to movies, I'm a dork for video games. When it comes to like movies, though, I think I'm more into the like distribution and like the boutique label thing that's going on now. A lot of these movies that are getting picked up are things that were already like self-financed or self-produced and then just got picked up for distribution in theaters. But I really like the people that have gone back and like hand-selected all these crazy things that a lot of us may have missed or loved but could never really find copies of. Like the things that Scream Factory does, and Arrow Video and Synapse and like all of those type of things. I'm really into the boutique labels putting out all these things that I either missed or have never actually owned. So as far as production wise, I think A24 does a really good job with the things that they pick out. I know they're not everybody's cup of tea, but I think they have a very good eye for the niche audiences out there and are willing to take gambles on things that maybe not big studios wouldn't take a chance on distributing. And surprisingly, Netflix. I think Netflix has gotten really awesome with the things they're picking out lately. Did you see Open House?
Is that the film you gave a 1 star?
Yeah, that's the only that's the only regret that I've had of watching these ones. But all these other ones they've been doing have been awesome. Open House, not awesome. Gerald's Game, awesome. But yeah, I think Netflix has done a really good job with picking up some of these other movies and getting them out there too, or at least giving a chance that might have been like abandoned or financial troubles. It's cool to see that there's more venues than just the movie theater and big name companies now.
For sure. Yeah, I saw that your open house thing. I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna use my time to watch that movie.
It was
I've got
offensive. I thought about
it's
writing my
offensive.
congressman. I was so damn mad watching that movie. And I can't. And you know what the worst thing is? It's like you always feel like it's about to finally like, okay, this is where it all works out. And now you get the picture. No, it never comes. It's just one dumb scene after another, and you're ready for the switch to happen. Nope, doesn't come. Man, I could probably go on a 45-minute tirade about how bad Open House was. Some of the dumb things, like not even horror movie wise, just movie wise, it's awful. Yeah, I'm mad right now just thinking about it.
All right, cool. And you're a fellow, or you were. I don't know if you still are, but you were a listener of the Shockwaves podcast, correct?
Yep.
Blumhouse's. And are you still listening to said podcast or?
Yeah. My favorite thing is to listen to the behind the scenes stories. Like it's awesome to have things where you listen to people talk about movies or discuss their feelings on movies, but it's really cool to get interviews with people that work on them. Like that's one of the reasons I love physical media is all these commentaries and behind the scene extras and the making ofs and stuff. So it's really cool when they kind of have a bigger platform, being associated with Blumhouse, that they can get a lot of really awesome guests in. And I get giddy every Friday when I load up my iTunes and I see that there's a new episode, and I get to see what random crazy person they get in to come and speak now. Like I was so excited when I saw I love Jordan Peele. Like even before Get Out, his stuff is so funny to me. Like his sense of humor is so much on my level that when I found out he was making a horror movie, I flipped. I was like, this is probably going to be one of my favorite things ever. And when I saw that he was a guest on Shockwaves before Get Out had even like really started hitting the marketing circuit, I was so excited to listen to that interview just to hear like one of my favorite comedians sit down and talk about horror and how he's actually making a horror film. And there's they have tons of episodes like that. Like definitely one of my favorites up there with the movie Crypt too, because they get a lot of those behind the scene interviews or some more interesting people that just the basic podcast isn't going to be able to get Heather Langenkamp on. So
Yeah. All right. Well, that's what I was gonna get at was, what would be the essentials for, or at least a starting point for people who are getting more into like listening to genre centric podcasts. Like, is it the Shockwaves and the Movie Crypts? Is there be any other ones that are more informative or more discussion centric? Like what would be some starting point? What would you recommend? What would you give a death culture seal of approval?
Definitely Shockwaves. Definitely the Movie Crypt. One of my personal favorites though is the Horror Show. I think they're now on Bloody Disgusting's podcast network. It's two guys, probably about maybe a year or two older than I am, but they basically they riff movies while describing the movie, like over a course of an hour. They take some of the worst schlock out there and just tear it apart, and they go on so many tangents, and it's the tangents that make it awesome. Once they stop even just talking about horror movies, when they start talking about they had something in a movie reminded them of a dumb story that they had in college or high school, and it reminds me a lot of when I'm watching something and it reminds me of those dumb moments. But yeah, the Horror Show is. If you're willing to have a laugh and you don't want super serious film discussion and just want to hear two guys make fun of bad movies that we've all probably seen, they're well worth listening to. It's not exclusively genre exactly, but Elric Kane Shockwaves. The other podcast he's on, Pure Cinema. Pure
Yeah,
Cinema is really
PCP.
cute. Yeah, that name alone is already really funny. But I really like that one. They do a lot of deep dives with the cult films and some of the more interesting things that maybe not the average moviegoer might not be so hip to. I've picked up tons of recommendations since listening to them. Even though they don't turn out tons of episodes, I can obviously understand why. But when they do put out episodes, they're of a good quality and caliber, and filled with at least one or two films that I haven't seen or heard, and even reminds me of films that, man, I was like, I should really go back and rewatch that.
So those are the ones you normally. Those are your main go-tos then.
Yeah,
All right.
when it comes
Cool.
to that, yeah, my
Yeah,
podcast list is filled with tons of stuff. But when it comes to, I guess, like more just horror specific or kind of horror adjacent stuff, it's mostly those ones that I think are like the real big ones that aren't already obviously listening to this one. I suggest a lot of people listen to those, especially if they're big genre fans.
For sure, yeah. And Mick Garris is now in the Blumhouse.
Oh yeah,
label.
I was wondering because I don't know if he's rebooted it completely yet, but yeah, I used to like listening to Postmortem a lot too. But like I said, he had dropped off for a little bit, so I kind of had completely forgot about it until you said something right then. His episode was really good, Shockwaves too.
Yeah, for sure. Those are definitely great ones. And Bloody Disgusting has some interesting podcasts that are genre centric, like you mentioned the horror show. I think I've only listened to like one or two, but they have some other ones. I think Woman in Caskets is also on the Fangoria, or not Fangoria, Bloody Disgusting. I don't know. So that's more of like a feminist one.
Yeah. There's some that I haven't given a chance to, just because there's a lot of them, and I probably already subscribed to like 30 plus podcasts, so I kind of have like a hierarchy. There's stuff that I want to listen to, and I keep just forgetting, or when I sit down to download it, I'm like, wait, what was the one I said I was going to try to remember? And then by that point, I've already have 16 other ones already loaded up, especially there's so many damn true crime podcasts out there. I don't even know which ones are worth listening to anymore either.
Oh man, that's a whole thing. The whole true crime. Let's just discuss about some fucked up people. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I think it's all about finding just the personalities that make those interesting. It's probably one of the millions of people that like last podcast on the left because they're funny and they discuss this stuff. So their personalities are enough to keep me interested, even if I've heard the story 1,000 times.
Yeah, especially if they have interesting tangents.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, yeah, go ahead. Just I don't know if there's some recent watches or recent purchases from, like you mentioned, those boutique type of labels like Severin and things like that. What do you want to pop up or discuss?
First, I got to give them big shout outs to Synapse for putting out Suspiria. Like I said, one of my favorites, one of the most gorgeous looking movies of all time, and they figured out a way to make it look even better in 2018. That color restoration and correcting is, man, my eyeballs just started bleeding while I was watching the screen. It's so sick looking. I got a bunch of pickups, man. Everyone knew to send me an Amazon gift card for some reason for Christmas. So I'm looking at stacks. That's actually what I was doing right before I took this call, was organizing the shelf, or one of these shelves. I finally checked out Tragedy Girls earlier today.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because it finally was available over here, because they didn't show it any theater in this country, and it hasn't been available on VOD or any streaming service until today. So I watched that earlier. I love those goofy girl-centric meta horrors like that, and The Final Girls and stuff like that. Those are pretty fun, weird, goofy, even though I'm not a teenage girl.
Were you unsettled though by sort of how they're kind of like the social satire, like the whole social media, the narcissism and things like that? That's what it really stood out too.
That stood out, but if I don't know if you've seen Ingrid Goes West.
Yeah, I saw that. I love that.
Yeah, I saw Ingrid Goes West before I saw Tragedy Girls, so I think Ingrid Goes West does a bit better job of showing how crazy people really get about social media. but I get what they were going for in Tragedy Girls, and it was still disturbing. Like, hey, these girls are willing to stage murders to get themselves clout. uh, I think the ending would have been a bit more disturbing if it wasn't so telegraphed. Like, you could tell all the way from the beginning that there was no redemption for either one of them. That they were gonna go out, and I was gonna say go out in a blaze, and literally kind of most of everybody went out in a blaze in that movie.
Did you like homages or references or homages like to Carrie or to Cannibal Holocaust? With
I actually giggled when the teacher was piked on the light pole, because first and foremost, I don't know if I looked away from the screen, but when I looked back, I was like, she's been piked on this telephone pole, but how'd she get on top of the telephone pole? And I was like, did I miss something? And I thought about rewinding it, but I was too lazy to go back. But yeah, as soon as she was laid out, I was like, yep, definitely Cannibal Holocaust. And then, like I said, Carrie, as soon as the whole dance caught fire, and yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff in that movie, and the practical effects are actually pretty sick. Was Craig Robinson? I already find that dude funny, but man, they did that dude in. I was not expecting them to. They split his coconut wide open, and I wasn't expecting that to happen. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think that was my most memorable kill from that film, just because that whole fight sequence. Then he just gets he just got fucked. I'm like, damn. I think, what was it, a barbell or I forgot what, but like it crushed his head, right?
Yeah, the he was like on that bench that has the I'm not blanking on the words, like the rails to guide it so that you don't lean in one or two sides. Like, you can use it for squats a lot. Yeah, I couldn't tell if I liked that one the most, even though, like, aesthetically, like the way that was pulled off was pretty funny. And I really liked the one in the shop class with the other cheerleader.
Oh,
they didn't even do anything. It was just a bunch of freak accidents, like, led all the way to her dying, and then she was like, that was some Final Destination shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. And then when it cuts back and they're like, well, we got to make it look like an actual murder instead of just an accident. So they cut up all her body parts and just had it sitting on all this stuff, spinning, like her head was like spinning around on that saw blade when that girl came in. Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Yeah. All right.
Was there catching up on some of those 2017 ones that didn't make it over here to Germany that I couldn't get access to. So that was definitely awesome. One of them.
That's cool that you supported like a more independent-ish type of film, like Tragedy Girls. So that's cool. You just rented it, right, or VOD?
Yeah, yeah. Because there's a small art house theater here that will actually play some American horror films, like independent films, but it's like an hour and a half away from me, 2 hours away from me. So I literally have to get I only go out there if there's a way I can swing like a double bill, because it's so far out from where I live. We get the more popular, like, major releases, but yeah, the only one that bummed me, but luckily I ended up being able to catch it not too long after, is they did a run of The Green Room and Neon Demon. They did a double feature.
Wow!
But
was it on 30? Oh, go ahead.
I don't know what it was how they were gonna do it, because I was going to go to it, and then I got scheduled at the last minute to work a Saturday, and they were only doing it on Saturday, so I had to miss out on it. But luckily, just not too long afterwards, they both showed up available to watch online. But man, I was pretty salty about that Saturday.
Dude, big screen.
Yeah, because The Green Room ended up being probably like my favorite film of 2016. I love that movie so damn much. But I regret not being able to see it in theaters.
All right. I guess I'll do a few here. Let me go back to you.
All
right. I recently watched Wreck, found footage film.
Oh yeah, I love it. Was it your first time seeing it?
Yeah. So I really loved it. I loved how dark it went. I loved kind of the political context of it, and the whole idea of just how, sometimes people are put in a shitty situation, and even the government can't really help you out. And so
Yeah.
I just thought that was extremely unsettling, especially I'm assuming in that country, Spain or whatever, it's probably even more corrupt, in terms of not letting people know specific things like that. And maybe, there's some type of ethical things. Anyways, it was just like, from that level, it was unsettling, the government aspect, and then how the people reacted to how they chained up that, the handcuffed the mother to the stairs, and, her daughter's infected, and, she's like screaming for her infected daughter, but, it's like, no one can really do anything. It's like, she's fucked, her daughter's fucked. It's just, oof. And then the ending too, I was like, whew.
See, that's what I was talking about. It's like, people can hate, like, people. I can see people being burnt out on found footage movies, but if you make a found footage movie as good as Wreck, then make a found footage movie, because that movie rules. Like, there's so much stuff I love about that. Have you seen the second one yet, or did you just watch the first one?
No, dude, I was so pumped into watching the second one, but then I read it was more of the supernatural, because they mentioned how there was a possession aspect of, I guess, the how it all originated, like the virus or whatever. So I was like, I don't know. I was like, I was more into just how I thought they really did with the undead and how that whole body horror thing. I just wasn't looking forward into the whole possession or like Vatican type of stuff. I'm kind of burnt out on that, but I don't know. Maybe it's not like that. I don't know. Is that the case? Or
I would go out on a limb and say that go ahead and watch it, because it is one of my favorite horror sequels of all time. Because it all still takes place in the same apartment building, but this time from the SWAT team and to clear out the building. So like while everything in the first one was recorded on recorded like a news broadcast, this one's recorded like body cam footage. So they use body cams. They use the snake cams, the ones that they feed under the door so they can see what rooms look like before they scope them out. So there's scenes where you're watching these cameras slowly snake in your rooms, and it's so slow. And it explains like how people became the way that they are in the first one, but it doesn't turn into one of those weird like holy church like dramas. It's still like a high octane like found footage like slaughter fest, and it's awesome. I would say it's like one of my favorite sequels of all time. The third and fourth one are not so much, but you can watch 1 and 2 back to back, and it's like as soon as the first one ends and the second one starts, like same night, same thing, just a different perspective, and it rules. It's so awesome. I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it, and if you thought about not giving it a chance, I would check it out.
I will. That sounds so awesome. I love the idea of a snake cam type of POV thing.
Yeah, there's scenes where they do like camera, like a screen inside a screen, like how like sports things will play a replay while the live thing's playing, and they'll show you like 3 different perspectives. Oh man, they figure out a way to do a lot of really cool things. I highly recommend it.
Nice. All right, cool. And I guess the next one here was, I recently saw the 1960 film Eyes Without a Face. This is I think a French film by. Let's see here. I don't know how to. It's like Franju or Georges Franju, but have you ever seen this Eyes Without a Face?
I have only actually seen parts of that one. I have never seen it all the way through. I had a friend who she's really big into the all the Criterion releases, and I think that was one of them. And I'd come over and I'd caught bits and pieces of it, but I've never actually sat down and watched the whole thing, which is probably a big oversight in my list of movies that I have seen.
Okay. So it's definitely body horror. It's about this doctor who's trying to graft a new skin on his daughter's permanently disfigured face. So there's this type of psychopath aspect that you're having to kind of deal with, and what's great about it is this was like picked by Guillermo del Toro on the Filmstruck streaming service. I don't know. Do you have that? Are you subscribed to that, or are you even able to?
A lot of those things are like region locked over here. I haven't tried that one yet, but there's some things that I just can't get to because of the region coding. Like even Shudder was originally giving me problems until I figured it out. But I haven't tried that one yet. But I might have to when I get off of here. I might have to try to see if it'll download for me.
All right. I mean, it's not. I wouldn't say like it's an essential, but I was like, it was extremely dark, and from his Toro's perspective, just like having to see how people will do horrific things for the love of someone else, like good times. Like you
Yeah,
mentioned, you see this brother who loves his his brother with not full in terms of mental capacity. So, but he does it in a way that's so, like you mentioned, horrifying, and taking advantage of African Americans and things like that. And when it comes to good times, you saw that it's just like wow, and it's a bit of realism with that. It's more realism in good times, but with this, it's like this doctor who, which I think is kind of. Have you seen Killing of a Sacred Deer by chance, or?
no, I'm actually gonna try to watch that tomorrow because it's finally available for me to watch it over here. So I'm
Okay.
excited to watch that one because I've heard some awfully awesome things and some awfully awful things about it. So I'm excited to see which side of the fence I fall on when I watch it.
It's unsettling, but what I wanted to get at was that also has a doctor aspect of it, and that whole idea of they think they're superior to others and to take advantage of other people is just so unsettling. I thought Eyes Without a Face did a great job on that, so that's the other film I wanted to point out too. But I don't know if is there other ones on another thing you can point out or
What
recent
else?
watches.
Speaking of Del Toro, I saw The Shape of Water. Shape of Water
Yes.
was incredible. Not quite a horror film, but it's got some aspects that some people might consider creepy, like fishman sex. But
Yeah,
that
for
one was
sure.
really great. Horror wise, I'm trying to think of what's some either newer stuff or new to me things that I just saw for the first time. I finally got somebody put out The Haunting, like the original '60s Haunting, and I got the Blu-ray for that, and I'm hoping to squeeze that in sometime because I don't think I've seen that since I was a kid. Like I think I might have played on like a Turner Classic Movies or like an AMC when I was a kid. Uh, I'm super excited to watch that. Shutter got Joe Lynch's Mayhem. I checked that out.
Ooh, nice.
I know that. I don't know if you've seen that one yet. That one's pretty awesome. Uh, I think if I had to pick an office movie where a lot of people die between this and the Belko Experiment last year, I think I like Mayhem more.
Ooh, all
It's a
right.
lot more charming.
Okay,
Yeah, I
yeah, for
liked I
sure.
liked Belko Experiment. And
It's
Belko
sad.
Experiment
Belko's sad.
definitely. Like I really like
That's
James
funny.
Gunn's writing, but there,
Hmm.
I don't know. There's something charming to me about Mayhem. I don't know if it was just the overall. I liked the performances more. They were so like off the walls that's what made it enjoyable. Maybe adding in the virus thing that makes you lower all your inhibitions, allowed for people to act like legitimately the actors to act crazier than they would in something like the Belko Experiment. So maybe that's why I enjoyed it more. A lot of
Yeah.
awesome kills though. I think
That's awesome.
when
Yeah,
saw
Joe Lynch
yeah
liked my
saw
review on Letterbox.
oh, really? Yeah, I was
Yeah.
actually planning on writing a review for it later tonight. Because I
Oh.
watched it last night, but I haven't had the chance to sit down until about now to do anything else other than work. But no, this kind of just been catching up on a lot of those, a lot of the more Oscar films that I didn't see or that are finally coming out here in Germany that I can go check out. Because I actually have legitimately liked most of the films up for Oscars now. Like it's insane. Jordan Peele got nominated. I
That's
don't think
beautiful,
he'll
man.
win, but I think it's fantastic that he got that. He not only is a debut directorial thing, it's also a horror movie, and it's up for four of the biggest categories for the Oscars, which is insane. And then right behind that, Del Toro's got the same love for The Shape of Water. But yeah, there's at least three or four of the movies that are nominated for Best Picture that I all legitimately really liked, regardless of genre. So I wouldn't be mad with whoever really wins it, as long as it's one of those four. If it's something stupid that I don't care about, I might be a little agitated. But
The Post. Stevens. I
yeah,
don't even know if that's nominated, but
yeah,
that'd be
no, I
ridiculous.
think I know it's a little off the horror talk, but I think Three Billboards might might sneak it out. That movie is incredible, and I think deserves deserves a lot of what it gets, because it's a very simple but complex story about human emotion and regret, and I think it nails everything that it sets out to do, and Sam Rockwell is incredible in it. And Frances McDermott, oh my god, dude, I've not laughed at somebody in a movie as hard as I was laughing at the stuff that she was saying in that film.
Nice. All right, man. Well, I know I don't know if we went over the 15 minutes, but um, I did want to bring up. Let's see here. Dude, the last time we talked was George Romero. Did he pass away, or was that?
Oh man, I can't. I think it might have been after, because I think we might have talked in the summertime, like earlier summertime, and I think he passed away in the later summertime. Yeah, no, I don't think him or Toby Hooper had passed away before. I think they've passed away since the last time we talked on here.
Yes. So well, respect to both of those, and I think I've mentioned that earlier in previous recordings, but I'm assuming those two are very important in your experience with the genre. So just want to bring that up.
Yeah, they lost, losing all these greats, and I'm hoping that people now realize that they're the next generations of greats and kind of start turning out some really awesome work soon. Because we need to start filling shoes with Wes Craven being gone, Toby Hooper being gone, and George Romero, and it's getting kind of sad, especially like talking about Suspiria being out. Dario Argento's getting old now too, real old now too. So I hope to fill up those masters of horror roles, because the world needs horror. We all need it. We need some way to laugh at our pain.
For sure. All right, and I should have brought this before, but maybe another time. But I loved Mom and Dad. I saw you gave it a 3, which I think is much of a it's a true, more of a true like rating. Like that movie is definitely a 3 stars. Just I was just like, it's so bonkers. I was like, oh my, it just reminded me of the first time I saw Crank. So, but.
Yeah, it was. I think it might have been Joe on the horror show. He said, I gave it a 3 star. He's like, as a film, it's a 1 star, but the enjoyment I got out of it was a 5 star. So I figured I'd cut it in half and give it a 3. So yeah. That's kind of I was like, there's a lot of stuff I really love about this, and what I really love is like off the rails and it rules. And the stuff that I didn't like, it was like, oh no, please stop that and go back to the stuff that I like. So I think it was like a really even film. It had really high highs and really low lows, but man, do I love seeing Nicolas Cage just be bad shit. And this is a movie that just let him be bad shit, and it ruled for it. So
yeah, and Selma Blair too. She's beautiful.
Yeah, Selma Blair.
Actor, so.
Yeah.
And are you looking forward to Mandy, Nicolas Cage's project with Panos Cosmatos and the Spectrovision label, or is that not something?
Yeah, I it's one of those things that like some of these things I've been kind of keeping at like an arm's length because I don't want to ruin it for myself. And then as the closer I get to it, I might, try to catch, a teaser trailer, not so much a full thing. I've almost made the mistake of going to see it in Winchester today, but I've heard that it's a absolute garbage pile, and so I was like, all right, well, since it's bad, let me see what this trailer looks like, because I love the Winchester trailer, and I was like, dodged a bullet. Dodged a bullet now. But no, I've heard a lot of good things, and I love the Spectrovision stuff. Like I don't know if you've seen the Shutter's show The Core. They had a Spectrovision episode, and it was awesome to hear those 3 guys talk. And everything they've put out, I've either enjoyed or I can at least understand why they picked it. Even if it wasn't for me, I could still understand that it's for people and that it's there's something to appreciate it. Exactly. I mean, I'm one of the people that like the Greasy Strangler, so everything I say might be a grain of salt, but I'll watch anything they put out. I won't say that I'll love everything that they do, but anything that has Nicolas Cage being potentially batshit insane, I'm on board for.
bullshit artist. A bullshit artist. All right.
Movie 2, Disco Fruity, whatever it was. I'm out of it, but man, it was like a Tim and Eric skit turned into like what felt like a 7-hour movie, and I loved all of it. It was so great and so bad all the time. I loved it.
When I was talking about it, the one person, she was talking about how the one dude was just gyrating with that fucking open pink suit. It was so disgusting.
Yeah.
But, all right, yeah. This is. I guess we kind of ended with upcoming projects that you're kind of keeping an eye on, and then I guess shout outs if you do. So yeah, those are the last kind of two things, upcoming projects and shout outs for you.
The things that I'm really excited for, sorry, cut out a little bit. I'm really excited to see how Michael Dougherty handles Godzilla. Krampus and Trick or Treat are two of my absolute favorite movies. It's incredible that guy has made two of my favorite movies, and he's just, I mean, he did animation and stuff beforehand, but man, Trick or Treat is like just one of the greatest Halloween movies of all time, and for it to be somebody's directorial debut is incredible. And the follow-up Krampus, I live in Germany now, so I'm surrounded by the Alpine folklore, so Krampus is really popular here, and I've loved Krampus for a long time. So for there to be a movie that nails what I enjoy about Krampus, the fun, dark weirdness of Christmas here, is awesome. But to know that he's going to be doing a Godzilla movie is, I love kaiju films, so to have one of my favorite directors who's put out two of my favorite movies handle a kaiju film is like, it's like a Reese's peanut butter cup. It's like the two best things you could do shoved into one thing, and I'm so excited to see it.
All right. Any others?
I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but I'm kind of starting to run on empty a little bit. I'm sure if I saw something or if it jogged my brain, I might have to take a look at it. I'm wondering if they're gonna if the Jordan Peele Twilight Zone thing is gonna go through. I keep hearing people talk about that. I'd really like to see Jordan Peele handle an anthology show. Whether or not it should be called The Twilight Zone, I know a lot of people argue about it, but I still think that his work on Key and Peele shows that he knows how to handle small stories, and his work with Get Out shows that he can clearly, has the vision to carry a full thing through. So it'd be nice to see him link up with a lot more interesting, either independent or exercises for bigger names to get the chance to do something along the styles like Twilight Zone-esque episodes. But I guess at that point it's almost Black Mirror if they do that. But it's okay. The world needs more anthology stories and shows and movies. So I hope that comes to fruition.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, there's... I'm looking at Letterboxd, Hereditary by A24, the remake of Suspiria, Halloween by Blumhouse. Any of those tickle your fancy or whatever?
Yeah, I have heard so much and seen so much about this Suspiria remake. First, I heard that it's got an insane runtime, like heading up towards 3 hours long, which is crazy because that's like twice the runtime of Suspiria. So I'm interested to see, but I'm not one of those people who immediately is like, oh, I hate remakes, because some of my favorite movies are remakes, like
The Thing,
whatever, The Blob, The Thing, they're all technically remakes and they're pretty good. But something about a 3 hour long version of Suspiria in 2018 seems a little weird. I'm genuinely excited for Halloween. Halloween is like, Michael Myers is like my mom's favorite, so I got indoctrinated into the Halloween franchise when I was super young. But it looks like a lot of the people that are working on it have an actual love and reverence for Halloween and not just cash in on Halloween. I mean, like, we listen to Shockwaves, so it's cool that somebody like Ryan Turek, who is clearly a super Halloween fan, has the opportunity to work on that, and that everybody who's involved seems to genuinely want to see Halloween do well and not just, hey, let's make a Halloween movie and cash out on it.
Yeah.
Hereditary seems interesting, but it's doing that thing that every A24 horror movie has done in the last 2 years, where every time before it gets put out, there's a million and one people going, "Is this the scariest movie that you've ever seen since The Exorcist?" And it's like, don't say that, because even if the movie is incredible, you're immediately saying, "Could this be the next Exorcist?" So when it's not the next Exorcist, people will be mad and start immediately just shit talking your movie. I'm interested to see it, but you should just let it speak on its own and not immediately try to compare it to this generation's insert whatever. Um, yeah. You know, a movie I am interested in, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be total ass, but I'm a huge fan of Hellraiser, especially the first two, and really only the first two. The other 8 million afterwards are all schlock. But I'm interested to see how they do this new one. I don't know if this is one of those cashing in so that they don't lose the rights to Pinhead and Hellraiser, but you know, it's interesting. What is Hellraiser going to look like in 2018? And if it's going to be bad, I hope it's so bad that I get a laugh out of it. Because if it's just middle of the road bad, then I'm probably going to be mad about it. Oh, and Victor Crowley. Victor Crowley did not come anywhere near me. And I love the Hatchet movies. Like I actually got to see Hatchet 2 unrated in a movie theater before they kicked all of them out of the movie theaters. I think it was AMC was showing them, and they were threatening to fine them and all that stuff, or whatever the big hubbub was that basically Hatchet 2 showed for one night and then it got removed from theaters. So I love Hatchet 2, or Hatchet 1, 2, and 3, and I'm excited to see what Adam Green does with Victor Crowley, even if it's just more absolute balls to the wall insanity, 80s practical effect kills. I'll probably be smiling all the way through.
Any shoutouts?
Nah, because I mean, I haven't really had the opportunity to do much, so I haven't really interacted with anybody too much. I guess shout outs to everybody who's doing something. Keep doing something and enjoy it and have fun. Don't slow down with what you're doing, because I've kind of been forced into it over the last couple of months. But as soon as the dark weather subsides, I hope to get back into it. So shouts out to everyone that keeps going through and doing stuff.
Cool, man. Thank you so much, Thomas Tucker. Please check out his Instagram page. It's the handle's death.culture, correct?
Yep. And I believe it's the same for Letterboxd. And then you can find me on WordPress at Death Culture. And hopefully, like I said, by the end of this month, I'll have this first thing that I've been working on pieced together for a YouTube channel. I started it back in the summertime and had to set it to the side, but this is going to be a lot more than just movies. This is going to go into literature, just folklore, movies, video games, anything that's kind of horror-centric or kind of fits into the weird and macabre. I'm even working on a piece about amusement parks, so hopefully once all this comes together, that people can at least visually see my stuff now, as opposed to just reading it or looking at pictures on Instagram.
All right, man. Thank you so much.
Have
a nice night.
I hope I can squeeze some more time to hop back on here. It's always fun talking, and this time I want to interview you next time. I don't want to answer questions. I want to ask you stuff.
I'll be down, man, in a couple months when you, like you mentioned, got time. All right, peace out, dude.
All right, take it easy.
Later.